I'm Michael, and this is my shop, and here I use primarily salvaged lumber, generally in the form of slabs. One of the requests that we get a lot, because I work with live edge slabs, is things like live edge tables, live edge countertops, and I wanted to break down the process of that a little bit, because often people think that since it has that live edge, it just plops down on the table and it's a finished piece. So in this video, I'm going to take you through the process of making a live edge countertop for a client of mine, from tree to counter. After a tree comes down, it needs to be milled, and when it's milled, the wood is very wet, so the first step is to dry the slabs. It takes about 6 months to a year per inch, depending on the setup, to get it to a workable moisture amount, before we can even think about making something out of it, like this countertop. During the drying process, as the moisture escapes, the boards can warp, and that's very common. So off camera, in getting ready to do this project, this board has already been planed so that it has two nice parallel sides. And now I have the CNC router programmed to cut this out to dimension. It's set to only hit 3 of the 4 sides of the slab, leaving 1 live edge. This makes for a nice raw look, but takes just as much time as cutting a square wood. But the slab's going to have a few spots that need to be filled with resin. This slab had a couple of large knots that the client actually loved the look of, but to make it durable, they need to be completely filled. This can take a few pours per knot because often the knots soak up quite a bit of the resin from the initial pours. All resins are a little bit different, but this Total Boat resin needs to cure for about 12 hours between pours. And then, once it's completely hardened, it gets sanded down so the resin is flush with the slab. And then the entirety of the slab gets sanded all the way up to a 220 grit. Off camera, I also popped the grain with water and then allowed the water to dry before a final round of sanding with 220 grit sandpaper. This gives it a buttery, smooth finish.
So, this is getting stained?
Yes.
Okay. What color did they pick?
Walnut. Finishing choices can vary, but in this case, the client wanted a dark stain. Step 1 is getting a pre-stain down onto the slab. This will help ensure that the stain is deposited as evenly as possible. The stain is going down, and then Brooke is trailing me with a dry cloth, pulling off the excess before the first coat sits for about 2 hours until the next layer of stain can go down. With stain, it's a matter of building up plenty of thin, evenly applied coats until you get your desired color. It takes a lot of patience. This counter ended up taking 8 coats, and the stain needed to sit between each coat. With the stain deposited, it was time for the finish. I'm using Osmo on this, which is a floor finish. It'll be nice and durable for the countertop and also provide a beautiful velvety look to the slab. It's not too harsh and glossy, which is my preference on live edge pieces. Then, that cures completely before the counter can be installed. So that's the general process, and as you can see, in the end, oftentimes making something that looks like a tree still takes just as much work as making something that looks more finished. It looks like it was just plopped there, but it wasn't. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.